Welcome to, I think, Neil, is this going to be episode 13? Because the last time I said it was going to be episode 14, so we're going to have to give up on this, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's 13. Let's go with it.
Okay, right. Let's let's go with 13, right? Well, welcome to episode number 13 of the Greenhorn podcast. We have our first official guest on the podcast, Mr. Sir Scott Baptie. Welcome.
Oh, you're back.
Mr. Sir.
Mr. Sir.
I've never been called that before. Well, thank you very much. Greenhorn duo. Nice to have. Nice to be on. Nice to speak to you both.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I kind of messaged a few friends, close friends, popular Instagram stars like Scott Baptie to see if they wanted to come on to the Greenhorn podcast and talk all things entrepreneur, business, dad life, just general chats about a few things. And he so kindly joined us. So one thing I want to start off with is, and we start every podcast with, Scott, how are you and how's your week been?
Very good for Tuesday. This is it's been a short working week for me this week because we were away for a wedding anniversary for a nice meal and an overnight somewhere on Sunday night, and we're away as a family off on holiday. Well, not really holiday. It's like an hour down the road for a few days tomorrow.
Oh, lovely. Where did you go for your little vacation slash
we were up at Kildrummy in for I don't know where your listeners are based, but
global. It's all global.
Global. Well, it's in Scotland in Aberdeenshire.
Lovely, because you got your second one on the way. They I don't know if you know the sex or not, but they must be coming up soon.
She, yeah.
Wow, two girls.
Three girls in the house.
Wow.
Saving a fortune on baby clothes.
Yeah, that's fair. You could definitely do a pass down, which is lovely, but
wait
it's
till
all
it comes to the
unisex
wedding.
these days.
You've got.
I honestly wanted another girl because when I was a kid I was weird, so I have this bias that boys are weird. So yeah, wanted girls.
They are, Scott. Boys are weird. We're all weird. We've got the three of us. Neil, how's your week so far? I know it's only Tuesday, but how's your week?
Yeah, it's been good. Kept on my running schedule, which is nice. I don't think I've got any highlights yet. No, that'll do me.
Did you know, Scott? Neil's trying to run. What is it? Some crazy
30 miles, 50k.
50k. Have you run a marathon, Scott?
You'd be better off asking if I've ever been running before.
Well, Neil suddenly thought that he wants to do 30 miles as a
day or
No, an ultra. So I've run a few marathons and I've been running for 4 or 5 years. So the next kind of stage from a marathon is an ultra marathon.
Yeah,
sounds like hell to me.
Definitely not long enough.
Sounds like hell to me, Scott.
Do not like.
Fair.
Are you still into the gym, Scott, or is your family life kind of taken over?
The gym. Hang on, let me just Google.
Define.
What is a gym? Yeah.
Fitness.
That's probably a topic we'll give a wide berth to. We are looking at turning a garage into a gym. That would be my return to lifting and getting swole, as they say. Hopefully that will be by the end of the year. So yeah,
you and me both, Scott. To be fair, I don't think
I'm honestly buzzing to do some transformation pictures and take creatine again, track my protein. Yeah,
because those are important.
Get sick chest pumps.
Those are the important things in life, aren't they? Tracking macros and creatine.
Yeah, I think some people listening to this will need a dictionary to work out the hell we're actually talking about, but it's gym bro speak.
Maybe, and that's probably, I suppose, sort of moves us nicely into understanding who Scott is, why he's on the podcast, and generally the direction we wanted to talk in terms of questions and whatnot for you. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, you started a Lean Gains website in 2012 or something that was kind of tracking your fitness journey. Is that right?
No, mate. Lean Gains, that's Martin, the Swedish dude.
That's right. What was it then?
Lean Files.
Close. I was close.
Close.
So tell us about that journey. So you started, I think you'd finished uni, or you're at uni, I think, and then you started this Lean Files thing. Tell us about it.
Yes, to both. I'd finished uni and was working for the uni. And I thought, want to get really shredded because single, 21, 22, nothing better to do. And yeah, got in touch with Maxi Muscle, who were like one of the big supplement companies at the time, and said, "Hi, I'm this guy that works in IT who likes to go to the gym, and I want to get shredded, and I'll give you some nice transformation pictures if you can ply me with some free protein." And they said, "Yeah, that sounds legit." And the rest is history. So yeah, we did a nice little 12-week transformation, and then we did the ultra lean files, and then we did what was the bulking one called? I can't remember. We did another one, but yeah, this was sort of me and Maxi Muscle blogging, and yeah, and then that was it.
Did you just like cold email Maxi Muscle and be like, "Hey"?
Yeah.
Did you have a blog at the time, or
No?
were you just what? So you literally
honestly,
were just some random
I literally
punter?
just found the contact on LinkedIn of someone who I can't remember what his job title, but this guy, his name was Sam, and he became my Maxi Muscle contact, and I was just like, "Hey, I'm this guy. Do you want to take a punt?" And I said in the email, "You probably get these all the time, but I'm hoping that I'm not just after the free stuff. It's mainly I'd like to do this as a platform and create content and so on." And they said, "Yeah."
And for those that are kind of listening and wondering what the heck Maxi Muscle is, I believe it was a supplement company that was started in a garage or something, and then it built up to this multi-million-pound company that was then sold to GlaxoSmithKline.
Yeah.
I think they now own it. But they made all sorts of like supplements, like protein powders and whatnot. But they were big, kind of synonymous and linked with men's health. They did a lot of advertising in there, and they were very much sort of about the cover model aspect. So
Yeah, they were like one of the biggest at the time. They were sort of around, I think, before your more cost-effective
My protein,
companies that sell the bags rather than in the tubs.
Was there a reason? Was there a reason for you wanting to email them? Why not just do a lean files thing yourself and just not bother with supplements?
Because I in the back of my mind, I did honestly have this idea of, wow, if this goes well, maybe I could get that men's fitness cover, or maybe I could become like, a fitness celeb. And I thought if I had the backing of them, they might have some contacts, and it makes it a little bit more legit than me just doing it on my own and posting on Facebook and hoping that like my mum and you like the post. So
Was that the aim? Essentially, like the high end aim was to become a bit of a fitness celebrity before.
yeah, it was to get on a magazine cover. That was always since you start lifting, that's sort of one of the egotistical goals that a lot of people have, to try and get on the cover of a magazine. Or for me, that was one
Fair
of
enough.
my goals.
Fair enough.
Did you achieve that?
Yeah, yes, Neil, I did.
Yeah.
On several occasions.
Ah.
In fact, I have a copy right here.
On your wall.
No, got on Men's Fitness a couple of times, then
Wow.
was in Muscle and Fitness, Men's Running, and then did some commercial fitness shoots that you got actually paid for as well. So it was nice.
Nice. And so we had the lean files, we had the ultra lean files, and then whatever the bulking section was of that website.
Yeah.
And this was all sort of pre-Facebook, and certainly pre-Instagram, all that kind of thing that happens now, and where people build their sort of fitness model reputations. Did you start like selling packages or something off the back of your website?
Yeah,
Did you start monetizing it?
Mm-hmm. It was definitely pre-Instagram. It was Twitter and Facebook were around then. And interestingly, there are people that still comment on my posts and stuff, that were there from the very beginning, and I remember their names and stuff. So that's quite cool. But yeah, I set up a blog around the same time of it, which was called Food for Fitness, and it was where it wasn't the Maxi Muscle blog, it was a separate one. It was more like recipes and meal plans and stuff. And then people started saying, "Oh, cool, can you write me a meal plan?" And I'm like, no qualification me was like, "Sure. Sounds good. Right, let's see what I'm doing, and let's try and pretty much see if they can do the same." And then that led to their mates asking for a plan, and then somebody they went to the gym with. And fast forward, I ended up going back to uni, did a master's in sports nutrition, and then turned it from a hobby into a job.
Wow. Did the pivot? So you had, was it leanfiles.com or something like that, and then switching it from there to Food for Fitness. Was that like a big pivot? Did you think? Was there reasons behind that?
No, they ran in tandem. So Lean Files was hosted by Maxi Muscle and me, and Food for Fitness was separate. If I'd known more about sort of SEO and backlink building and stuff, I would have had it on the same domain, but I don't think it's made much of a difference.
Fair enough. So you'd built up a bit of a reputation. You started going into sort of the one-to-one coaching aspect of things. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong. These are kind of going off of what I remember about you. And then you started coaching from a group perspective. So you've gone Lean Files, talking about what you've got a bit of a sponsorship, Maxi Muscle, doing some meal plans for people, doing some one-to-one coaching, and now you've sort of progressed into more group coaching. Would that be right?
Sort of. I've missed a few bits out along the way, but we did one-to-one stuff both in person and online, and then went solely online, so no meeting people, which is nice because then it means I didn't have to shower so frequently. And then moving to more of the recipe creation side of things, which came about because people liked the recipes that were going at their meal plan. They went, oh, can you do more recipes? And that's how the recipe thing started. And then, moved into creating meal plans more focused on all the different recipes. And now we've just got a coaching program that's just started that's back into a Facebook group. And it's the first sort of group that we've had for ages. And there's like 390 odd women in it. And it's unbelievable. Like the power of the Facebook group is, the community is, it's like, oh, I wish I'd done this before.
Community is a big part of fitness now, isn't it? But yeah, Neil, go and ask.
There was a period of time where you went like through businesses and like did these kind of workshops and presentations. Because I remember going to one, this was maybe 10 years ago, Britannia.
Yeah, we did that. So that went pretty much up until the start of COVID, to be honest.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, doing corporate stuff, like whole day events and lunch and learns and these kind of things. And then, COVID happened. And also we moved out into the country and I couldn't be arsed driving into town as often. So
that's fair.
Them back a little bit.
I think we'll get into that a little bit in terms of how, your work life, self-employed balance thing has sort of moved on. Over those years of running your own business and being an entrepreneur, if that's not a wanky term anymore, how did you reinvest? Did you just, all the money that you made, say from Lean Files, did you just pump that back into, like, I don't know, cameras or content stuff or websites or whatever else? Like, how have you reinvested as you've progressed through these different ways of making money, or making money on the internet, if you will? Have you had any sort of strategy for it?
It's a hard one to answer because I certainly would do things in sort of intense focus blocks, but because that was my interest. So I'd read something about, the power of SEO. I'm like, oh my God, SEO, right. Backlinks, so it'd be like intense SEO work. And then somebody's like, well, what's the point in doing SEO if your landing page doesn't convert well? Oh my God, right, I'm going to get so focused on conversion rate optimization, do this. And like, well, what's the point in having a highly optimized landing page if once you get their email, they're not selling, right? Email marketing, copywriting, blah, blah, blah. And it would be sort of, going all over the place. And then I'm like, farther down the line, oh my God, my SEO is terrible. Whereas now I have a bit more of a broader view and don't just go all into everything. It's a bit more structured. But yeah, things have changed. I suppose one of the biggest changes would have been probably since the end of last year with the change to Facebook and the advertising platform there. For anybody who doesn't know, with the privacy changes that came through on Apple, it's really affected people like me who advertise predominantly on Facebook and Instagram. Essentially, just adverts don't work as well as they used to. So I've had to have a pivot and focus on things that you have more control over, unlike who Facebook decides to show your adverts to. So that's probably one of the biggest changes that's happened in the last 5-6 years or so that's affected me significantly.
Do you think you focused more on content versus all this stuff you just talked about? Which, as a timeline, do you think that it's progressed and changed in some way? So maybe at the start of your career when you were at uni or working for the uni and you were building this kind of profile, if you want to call it that, I think self-promotion, did you focus more on content then, and now you're more strategic and a bit smarter because you've got a larger audience? Like, how's that progressed over the past 10 years?
Yeah, again, I don't think there's a sort of linear progression. It's almost cyclical. So you start, and like you said at the beginning, doing like what I'm doing, this is what's happening for me in the gym and so on. And then you start thinking, well, hang on, surely you should be delivering more value for people. So you start doing blogs and articles and focusing on giving information. And then you realize that, hang on, this is the content people should be consuming, but they're just not interested. It's not getting the likes and the shares and the reach. So what does? Oh yeah, more personal stuff, right? So we'll start doing more personal stuff. And I think that's the thing I've got to now is trying to do a bit of both, in the sense of people do business with people they like, know, and trust. And it's trying to show that I'm just a normal person, really, and hopefully they find the stuff I'm posting helpful to them, and that they're interested in learning more and trust me to help them get to where they want to be. So
which do you think
content, but
which do you think is more important?
Well, like, know, and trust.
Well, not like, know, and trust, but more, you're producing content for people to follow that has impact, that they ultimately can do, that contains a personal element, but then also having the strategical aspect, which is, are you SEOing it properly? Are you thinking about the thumbnail that you put on your YouTube video?
Yeah.
Which of those two marketing strategies, if you will, are more important? Is it the content and the personal aspect and all of that kind of know, like, and trust? Or is it SEO, Facebook pixels? And
I think it really depends who you ask, because you're going to, if your content's terrible, it doesn't matter how optimized it is. If people land on it and then they're like, oh, this content's garbage, I'm clicking off it. Or if it's amazing content, but it's not even getting the chance to be seen, what's the point in doing it in the first place? I don't think either is supreme. I think it's, you just have to find that balance of getting both. And that's the holy grail of content marketing, is delivering on both. And for me, it's more creating the content.
He's frozen for me.
I know people like, and then finding, that's one thing. So Russell Brunson, a marketing guy, he's quite intense, but some of his messages are pretty good. And he says, rather than, or you get to a point in business when you stop asking, how can I do this? And instead you start asking, who can do this? So for me, I'm trying to focus on the things that only I can do and deliver and know about the messaging and stuff. But then things like SEO and editing content and uploading and so on, someone else can do this for me, which allows me to focus more on the stuff that only I can do. So that's also another sort of business shift.
And that's a really interesting part, because a lot of people, especially within, like, fitness is how we commonly know each other. But a lot of people, especially in this kind of entrepreneurial gig economy, they all try and do everything themselves. Like you've said, you got hyper-focused when you were doing SEO, and you were hyper-focused on Facebook advertising and all these kind of things. At what point were you like, hey, actually, I'm going to outsource stuff? And how did you go about that recruitment process? How did you entrust these people with things that you could probably do, and you could probably do it yourself? You could probably do it for free, technically, because it's your own time. Like, how did you come to that conclusion? And then how did you go through the sort of employment process, if you will, or, hiring process?
Looking at it, from a business perspective, and looking at it from business growth tasks, not from back in the day when we had a team of coaches that were working with me, because that was separate. So it would have been January last year, I started working with a business coach guy, and his whole thing was looking at the jobs that I do that I don't need to be doing, and can we find somebody else to do them so I can focus on the things that only I can do. And so that started off by hiring a full-time assistant, and call him assistant, which is a colleague, really. She's amazing, Steph. And that was so good at freeing up time, because one of the things I had with the I mean, again, it's relative. Compared to some people, it's a very small following, but compared to others, it's quite large. But it's about 360,000 across all platforms of people that follow me. And there'd be so many messages coming in that things would get missed. And I thought that's really unprofessional. Like, people are taking time to comment on something and ask a question. They need an answer. So that was really the first step, was freeing up, hours of my time so that I'm not responding to messages like, oh, I didn't get this email, or does this mean this? So Steph comes in and she answers all these questions, not trying to pretend to be me. She comments as her. Like, that's one thing you see on some pages when somebody's like, they're answering this at 4 a.m. No, they're not. So Steph is amazing at that, but she's also a qualified dietitian as well. So she can help on the nutrition side of things and helps me build the meal plans and recipes. And yeah, she's amazing. So she really helped. And also looking at the technical side of things. So I have somebody who helps with running Facebook ads, Google traffic, and so on. And excuse me, not vid, phlegmy, not dry. Yeah, trying to just find people who are better at it anyway. Like, if your job is SEO, you're going to know way more about it than I do. If your job is Facebook ads, you're going to know way more about it than I do. And just try not to be overly possessive or micromanage things.
Did that help your family life as well?
Yeah, definitely. Because I used to hate Mondays because I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be so many messages from over the weekend that I've got to do, and so many emails and help desk tickets and everything. And now I'll go on a Monday and it's literally just a handful of ones that I have to answer. So it's just way more relaxed.
And would you say, is that the biggest measurement of return of investment?
It's
like getting that time back. So when you hire someone, you're kind of like, oh, they're going to cost me 30 grand a year to do all these sort of tasks that I could do myself, right? And I can find the time somewhere. But equally, you're thinking, well, does this individual return 3 times their salary to be able to justify essentially it?
Yeah, because that is something that my business coach helped me work around, and saying, stop just looking at things in terms of pounds and start thinking more about time and freedom and things that you're not obligated to do anymore. And also James Schramko, who's an Australian business guy, his whole approach his book is called Work Less and Make More. And one of his lines of, how do you make more money, or how do you, he talks about your effective hourly rate. So he basically says, add up the amount of time you work over the course of a week divided by your total salary, and that gives you your effective hourly rate. He says the simplest way to increase your effective hourly rate is work less. So it sounds simplistic, but his whole thing is, stop wasting time doing stuff you don't need to, and if you're more relaxed and focus on the stuff you really like doing, you'll be more productive. It's easier said than done. Some people can't just simply go and say, okay, well, I'm going to hire an assistant. It has to obviously make business sense to you, and you have to be able to know that by you outsourcing those tasks, you are able to focus more on the money-making tasks themselves.
It is. I think that goes further in the discussion, that if you work out your hourly rate, then should you be doing tasks that you could pay someone else for that's earning, that you'd pay less for, essentially. So if your hourly rate's £50 an hour or £25 an hour, whatever it might be, and a cleaner, for example, is like, hey, I'm £10 an hour, I'll clean your house. Fundamentally, it's probably a better investment for you to outsource cleaning of your house and spend the £25 an hour, £50 an hour working on your business. I mean,
yeah, that's what Tim Ferriss says. He uses that exact example in his book. Say for like washing your car and cleaning your car. I love cleaning my car and washing it, so that's not a problem for me. But I understand that the concept of it. But I suppose that's also very good if you are going to use that time you've got back to make money. If you're just going to use it to watch Netflix, then it's not really.
I mean, that's a different. There's a good book from, I can't remember the author's name, but it's a finance book called Die with Zero.
Right.
So the reason I asked the question of how are you measuring this return of investment, and it's quite interesting. Your business coach is like, hey, sometimes it's not just about the pound. Sometimes it's about the fact that you've got an extra 4 hours with your daughter and your wife, and you can rest assured that someone's away. And in this book in particular, he talks about how using money to buy experiences, and rather than having it just sat in your bank account, when you're 70 or 80 and just you die and it gets given out to your grandkids, like why not use it for a 40th birthday party, or like you say,
I agree. We talk about that as well. Like when I see people buy things that you're like, oh my God, what is the point? Are you honestly going to remember that in 20 years' time? Or would you remember when you flew to Raja Ampat in Indonesia and went diving on some of the best reefs in the world? Like, you're damn right you'd remember Raja Ampat. Your 3 Series Beamer, you're not going to even remember. So Beamer was an Audi, and who cares?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's a really interesting point on like returns of investment and hiring people, because there's certainly a lot of people within our circle that probably could have outsourced earlier, me included. Like I could have easily outsourced many things that I was doing, and the business would have scaled, but I was either scared of like hiring someone because then I've got to like manage them and do all that kind of stuff. Do you use like platforms or anything to be able to help manage people, or do you just have like routine check-ins with them? How do you tend to do that?
With the people that work with me?
Yeah, so do you have like a Monday roundtable stand-up? Do you have like a Slack channel?
No, again, we used to, but then it was like meeting for the sake of a meeting. Like, oh, let's have a Wednesday chat with Facebook guy and my Google guys, and it wasn't productive. It was like meeting for the sake of meeting. So Steph, me and her, we speak on Teams, just chat all the time. Somebody's done, and then, yeah, email works fine for me. Like, I don't need to unnecessary meetings. When I used to work for the uni, that was something I used to really not like, and I used to actually wind people up because, oh, right, so we'll set up a regular project meeting for this on a Monday. I'm like, what's the point? Like, if nothing's been done, we haven't started anything, what's the point in going for a meeting? Like, why don't you just do the stuff that hasn't been done in that hour, and then we can meet about it next week and we can talk about it. So that's fair. I don't do like Slack channels and round tables and all this unless it's really necessary.
Yeah, you can be death by meetings, can't you, Neil?
Mm.
Yeah, but there's also a social aspect to that. So, Scott, you don't get a bit bored, a bit isolated from just working from home?
Mate, I love hermit life.
Do you?
Got me. I've got my dartboard in my office. I got, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I worked for a small company, 8 people, but every couple of days we'd get around a table and just chat shit.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a meeting.
No, I do. I remember when I was working, Kenny, who I used to sit next to, me and him used to have a real great laugh. And that was one thing I missed the most about when I stopped working in an office. The banter aspect. So, no, I do agree. I'm not that much of an antisocial shit.
Fair. You got your badminton on like a Friday or something, your volleyball.
Yeah, badminton, twice a week.
Fair. It's more fitness than I do, let's put it that way.
Mean shoulder pump.
Hi. I was quite interested, and I've often thought about this, and now the fact that I'm actually back in employed life, I could answer it much easier. But if you were to stop everything you're doing now, have you ever thought about, it'd be quite nice to get a 9-to-5 job, or just check in, check out, and if it was a 9-to-5 job or an employed position somewhere, what would that be? Would that be something? Yeah.
I have thought about that. So when you're in the sort of depths of December, which for me is the worst month for revenue generation, because nobody cares about healthy eating or losing weight or recipes and in December. So you're like, oh my God, December, it's horrendous. If I had a job, I know there'd be like the same amount of money coming in, guaranteed, regardless of the month. But no, and again, there are lots of reasons why I wouldn't do this. But one thing, again, talking about James Schramko, it sounds like he's my hero, but he talks about this idea that a lot of people don't maybe give up their job and do something that they really, really love and follow their passion and so on because of the perceived risk from it, which is fair enough. But I suppose it's how you measure and assess risk, because he talks about it, and I agree with this. If you have a job, you have one paymaster, like you have one revenue stream, and if something happens, that's turned off and you have no job. You have no money at all coming in. Versus when you're self-employed, you can have multiple revenue streams coming in. I mean, even if you're like, use an example, a photographer, if you do, say people stop getting married, well, it's okay. You can do baby shoots. You can do, lifestyle shoots. You can do lots of stuff. So that's the thing is, for me, there's less risk because there's money coming in lots of different revenue streams rather than just having the one paymaster. So it's kind of tangent, but
yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair because I thought about that. I was mulling over this position to go and work for Ali, work for a big YouTuber, and experience an employed life after I think 12 years of being self-employed. And everyone was always like, oh yeah, you've got a kid now, Gordon. Go and get employed. It'll be safety. You'll get money coming in the door like every month. You won't have to worry about it. And I'm like, yeah, but have you seen the tax bill? But all seriousness, like a lot of people tend to have the view that employed life is safer, that it's a much, stable income type of route. But exactly, my opinion of that is exactly the same as yours in the sense that I had 12 videography clients that were paying me on a regular basis. It's never going to be the case where all 12 of them will just cease to pay me. I'd have to do something pretty egregious for that to happen. So if one drops off, I'd maybe find another one, but I'd always have a relatively steady income from that. But if Ali decides one day and says, hey, Gordon, you're shit. Yeah. See you later, mate. That's it. It's done. I've got to find another job or find another income, right?
Yeah. Videography contacts number 1. Will you have me back? Number 2. Will you have me back?
Yeah, it is. And I often find that quite interesting. But yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at sort of employed versus self-employed life, I guess.
Yeah.
So Scott, what's your long-term plans with Food for Fitness? Thought.
Well, this is also another interesting point for discussion, and that is planning and goal setting. So I used to do the whole Dan Sullivan strategic coach style of planning when you have, your 30-day goal, your 90-day goal, your 5-year, your life plan, your 1 year, blah, 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 all these segments and how they build up and add on and so on. And then I got fed up because I was being too optimistic or aggressive with the goal setting, and I'd never achieve half of them. I'm like, oh, it's goal setting shit. I can never do any of these. So I stopped. And now I don't really have, it sounds strange, but I don't really have this, oh, well, I'd like to eventually do. No, I tell a lie. There are a few little ideas, but nothing concrete. One is the book. Getting a printed book is one of the main focuses at the moment, and there's a big drive on to get this confirmed and set up, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks I will have some positive news that I can share with people regarding getting a print book deal for recipes. Nice. The other, also this new program that I've just started is just phenomenal, and again the community and the responses from people is amazing. So again, I think there's maybe more things around that I do. And then, I've always said that I'm not going down the sort of fitness business coach line because, well, I mean, Gordon and I've joked about this before. It seems to be a thing, not in all cases, but a lot of people in the fitness industry who can't really make it in the fitness industry. So like, okay, cool. What I'll do is I'll be a business coach. So teaching fitness coaches how to make money, but you couldn't do it yourself in the first place. And I would like to think that maybe I'm 35 just now, by the time I get to 40, I will have had 15 years experience working online in the fitness industry. And that is maybe a point, or maybe even sooner. I've done it now for, since 2010. I've done it for 12 years already. I feel like I've got crazy good experience, and I could probably help people make more money online. So that might come about.
And that's the crazy thing about, how we've kind of grown up together to a certain degree within the fitness industry and the whole online world that's been around, I think, Scott, would be fair to say. And it's really interesting to see. And I don't know why it's an accolade, like when you've been doing it for longer than other people, but there's maybe a bit more, there's something about being a bit older in a very young industry that kind of has a bit more experience. And you've certainly seen it go from, WordPress websites to Instagram filters, which, a lot of the fitness industry hasn't seen that, have they?
Yeah, I know. It's mad. The fitness business coach thing it's hilarious. I mean, there's some folk that are absolutely killing it and do a really good job, and I think they are very knowledgeable and put out great content and are legit. But I think a lot of people just they're just bullshitters. Like,
I think they're hype men. I think a lot of what's happening, it's not like, let's look at your P&L, let's look at, business strategy, launch calendars, and like all the things you talked about earlier in the podcast, the SEOs and the Facebook and ads and all that kind of stuff. It's just a case of, I think your product's amazing. I think, you're going to be a superstar. These are all the things that I just keep hearing, rather than it being actual, sense-driven business planning, if you will, or actual insights.
I think it's hilarious. You go on somebody's website or landing page and it's like, oh, download this blah, blah, blah checklist to get fitness leads coming in on tap. I'm like, this page is horrendous. Like, you are not getting leads coming in on tap because your design is shocking. You're committing some basic marketing flaws. Stop it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Nice. Will we move on to the whole kind of dad life, married life now, Scott? How do you juggle business, married life, wife, kids, all that kind of stuff?
In the beginning, it was very different. Now, it's quite interesting because at this point now we're expecting baby 2 next month, and I feel like.
How old's your first one? How old's your first one?
Should be 3 in July.
Okay.
And I think that now it's just like, oh well, we know what to expect. Kid come in, got this, got all this laid out, car seat there. Whereas in the start, you're like, oh my god, right. What's this thing about like meconium? How do you know what that is? And like all this sort of baby talk that you get in the NCT classes and everything, you're so worked up and nervous about it. And so our approach to it now is like, God, yeah, I just want to meet this kid and just get on with life rather than sort of the huge 9-month wait. And then it's so easy for me to talk about it. It's much harder, obviously, for Becky, my wife. But both of us are just ready to get over that stage. And I'm sure you boys are the same when your other halves were in the same situation. But
it's that anticipation of just waiting.
I know.
For the moment. You've got 9 months of waiting, and as a guy, you can't really do much. You can support them, you can cuddle them, but yeah, you just left to wait.
At night time, that's when so I'm not quite yet, but like the next couple of weeks, anytime partner rolls over or gets up to go to the toilet in the night, you're like, you're going into labour? No, okay. And then the next one, like, oh my god, it's labour. And then you're like, yes, we got through the nights, the morning, and things like. I mean, I should probably shouldn't have more than a beer in case I need to drive. And then one night, I've got a bit of a sore stomach. Oh my god, I hope I don't have norovirus. Oh my god, imagine I've got norovirus. And then Becky goes into labour. I'll be shitting everywhere on the way to the hospital. It's like this is how my mind works. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully
I took a month off drinking, just before Laura popped, and it was kind of a weird experience in the sense that I was just like, for the month out, you're just constantly anticipating this call or, some sort of dramatic effect. And it's never, I don't know how you both went through it, but it was never as dramatic as the movies make it out to be. It was just kind of like, yeah, we're overdue, so we'll pop in, see what they're saying. And maybe we'll sit down, have a chat, and then we'll go home again. And it was never a case of like suddenly, oh my god, the waters have broken, everything's in the
supermarket or on the bus or.
No. Yeah. Well, it's going to be a bit different this time because we're actually planning on having a home birth, so that means that you can still get bevved right up until then. You hopefully don't have to drive anywhere. So
that sounds different.
Wow, but in terms of kind of juggling your business, say 3 years ago when it was just you and your wife, and then your kid came along, how did you kind of make that transition from your dad priorities to your business priorities? Or have you always been quite flexible?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I can't remember. Honestly, I don't know. I think because
maybe you weren't that busy.
I tried to do the James Schramko thing of work as few hours as I can. And I work Monday to Thursday, and if need be, then again I can, because I don't have really meetings. I can move things around like tasks and stuff. So if Becky needs a bit more help with the baby and so on, I can go and do that and then work a bit later. And yeah, it wasn't, from a work perspective, it wasn't that different. It was more of like, from a social perspective, like, well, I can't just go and play golf or can't go badminton and too tired and everything. So
It seems you've got a pretty good approach to work-life balance. I mean, you see some fitness entrepreneurs and all that are just hustle.
I do not hustle and grind. And it's funny as well, like when you see people and people are like, oh, how's work? You busy? I say, no. Like, oh, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be busy. Why would I want to be busy? I want, like, it's a bizarre thing, like being busy as if it's that success. I think not being busy and being relaxed is successful.
Yeah. But surely there's and I don't know how you've both been self-employed, but how do you juggle that, just getting or striving for the next paycheck or getting that money in the bank? Because surely there's, in the back of your head, is like, what if December's a really crap month and you need money in the bank? Do you not just need more and more and more, so then you do more and more and more work? How do you...
Well, it's funny, for using the December example, like every year since I've been in the fitness industry, December has always been terrible, and I know this is coming, but still you get to December, you're like, oh my God, December. Fortunately, the January follows December, and January is the best month of the year, without doubt. So you always, January always helps, but still psychologically, I don't think we'll ever get over the, oh my God, December's terrible.
But then there's an element of, a lot of people think financial freedom is getting richer, but rather it's also managing outgoings, right?
Yeah.
You're not driving around in the latest and greatest Afford tractor. So I think you'd be all right. Do you know what I mean? It's like you don't.
A fine Massey Ferguson in the back, yeah.
But it is, financial freedom and being able to weather, not storms, but weather storms in the sense of like December times when you're self-employed and it's not the most important thing in people's lives for fitness aspects of stuff. But I imagine also you're not cooking up millions of pounds worth of outgoings that you have to manage and juggle around cash flow and all that kind of thing. There's a certain point where clearly you've obviously managed your outgoings and you clearly have, residuals in the bank. That means that December's fine and you could probably keep going for a long time. And there's a lesson in that somewhere, isn't there? You're not just reinvesting for the sake of reinvesting, going back to the first question I meant. And you're also not just flunking it on, Ferraris or the biggest possible house that you can get and all these kind of things. You're actually thinking about it and going, well, sometimes there's slim months and sometimes there's really good months.
Yeah, exactly. No, I rarely buy stuff. My watch is an Apple Watch that I don't have. This is the most expensive watch I own. Gordon, would you like to answer that one? No. I've got a nice car, but I don't drive around in the bloody Aston Martin or anything, stupid like that. Just because once you get to a certain point, anything more is just slightly nicer. Once you get to sort of nice and you're content, and it's like, oh, it's a little bit better. Oh, it's a little bit better. But like we said earlier, I'd rather spend money on experiences or things that I'll actually remember, and not just like I don't buy designer clothes or quite frugal with my money, and I don't like buying multi-packs at Iron Brew unless it's on offer. I don't like paying £7 for a 24-pack. I want to wait till that's definitely below £6. I thought that's ridiculous. The pound, like all these little things add up.
That's a proper churchter.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a touching on some of the things you just said there, and you've been doing the game for a decade or so in terms of being self-employed or certainly running your own business, and it's certainly at the start and for most of your career, I'm sure it's always been a decent upward trend, right? Each year, turnover's been higher. Income's been better, more satisfaction, more impact. Have there ever been years that hasn't been the case?
Yeah. And
if it hasn't been the case, how did you feel? And how did you pivot? And how did you get out of that, perhaps?
Yeah, so it hasn't always been an upward trajectory. There's been some years that were worse than others. Fortunately, the last couple of years have all been better than the previous years. How did we pivot?
Or how did it make you feel? So rather than thinking about the pivoting, because there was a certain, I'll maybe use myself as an example. There was a certain point, all the way through up till about 2017, maybe even 2018, it was just a very good, steady, steep incline in terms of how much I was earning, in terms of the amount of client successes that I was getting, and even the personal life successes that I was enjoying. Then 2018, 2019, it was in that kind of weird fitness lull where you're like, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I can fit protein is. And, it's not that challenging. I can coach people and I can do all those things. And you're like, I'm just kind of churning and just doing what I wanted to do. And earnings reflected that to a certain degree. I suppose I'd be curious to see how you felt if there was that stages where you're not. It's so nice to surf, isn't it? And then suddenly you're like, oh, bring it back down to earth and be like, oh, okay, maybe this year wasn't quite as good as last year.
Yeah. I think that happens when you start to get bored. There's been times, not recently, but in the last 5 years when I was like, oh, God, just going through the motion, answer some emails, post on Facebook, do this, post a recipe. And then, it's when when you're bored, that's when income either flatlines or drops off. And then when it's things that you start really getting excited about, like just now on this book, again, this book and this group, I'm so buzzing by them. I'm loving doing everything at the moment related to them. And it's really exciting. And I think that it will provide the returns from the justified returns from the work and the enthusiasm that's going into it. How
do you find that again?
Find what?
The excitement that you mentioned. So it's something that you're like, oh, this is fun. Do you? I found that going from something that was already serving my business, which is photography and videography, I was very good at creating videos and taking good pictures and whatnot, and that just became something that I was actually interested in. And then people wanted to pay me for it. Do you look for those types of things, or are you just looking for new opportunities? How do you find the spice when it's a bit dull?
Yeah, it's a mix of everything, and also looking at the numbers. So something that we do is everything is really data driven now, like using like analytics and tracking data and attributions and so on. So you can see exactly if you put this amount in a Facebook ad, how long does it take someone before they go from a lead to purchasing, and what's the lifetime value, blah, blah, blah. And that, when you see that, you can go, all right, okay, so this, what I'm spending a lot of time on, is actually not really producing any money. I thought it was, but this, which is actually making way more money than anything else. And so it's these little wins and trying to refine the process and like stupid little things that happen on a website. Like, oh my God, by putting this header here, I'm getting, 10% more people clicking on this button because the header is here. Wow. And these little things that, because you've got the data, you can do it and tweak it and make it better.
So you're making it fun, really, aren't you, by doing those things?
Yeah, making it sort of sciencey and doing little tests, but doing a lot of different things as well. It's not just posting on Facebook. I'm filming a lot of recipes at the moment, which I'm really enjoying because I've not done that before. And started doing. Funny, we talked about SEO. I'm doing more SEO stuff that I haven't done for ages. I'm like, God, this is quite fun, but not at the expense of emails. Like, I'm not suddenly stopping emailing.
No, that's fair.
Nice. You probably don't know this, Scott, because you haven't listened to our podcast you mentioned at the start, but one of our most popular episodes is Life Advice.
Hold on a minute, is that a dig, Neil? Are you suggesting that Scott Baptie should be clued up to episode 13? He should know every detail, everything we talk about. You seem quite uncomfortable there, Scott.
You're about to source it. I'll find somebody to listen to them and send me the transcript.
Sorry, Neil, I didn't interrupt you. Crack on.
But our most popular has been like life advice from a 30-year-old, and I'm not saying we've all made it and we've completed life, but just to wrap things up, do you have any kind of maybe one or two things that you want to tell our massive audience? Some advice from a 30-year-old.
If you're 20, if you're your 35-year-old Scott now, and you're like, hey, I want to talk to my 20-year-old self. What two?
Even your child. Even your child listening to this in 10 years, 20 years time.
Facebook likes don't mean shit.
They feel good in the moment, Scott. Come on now. When you were posting your men's fitness cover
your
model,
selfie with your dog.
Yeah. Somebody else's opinion of you isn't a real thing. It's just in their mind. It's not a real thing. So stop trying to guess what people think about you and so on. It might not even be that, and even if they did, you can't please everyone.
How did you get over that? Because obviously it's quite easy to get wrapped up in that, right? Especially with the whole likes thing on Facebook and Instagram. You kind of you put your value on that to a certain degree. Are there any tools and tricks and tips that you stopped that being the case and you just posted what you wanted and how you wanted, or strategically wanted but didn't really care about the metrics?
No, wait, I'm not going to answer your question, but I'm going to say something else that's important. I think the whole one thing. Sorry, Neil. This is back to what you said. Is life advice is try and make that distinction between work and free time. I always, a part of me gets upset when someone's like, "Oh, I'm off on holiday the next week, but don't worry, I'll still be checking emails." I'm like, I don't want you to be checking your emails on your holiday. Like, nothing is that important that I can't wait for you to come back. And like, I used to do a thing when I delete Instagram at the weekend, put it back on a Monday. Now I do a post and then I delete it for the day. So each day, Monday, Friday, I delete and reinstall Instagram. I can't so anything kind of work related, like Facebook Ads Manager, email, online banking, anything like that is blocked on my phone, and Becky's got the screen time password. So if there's like an absolute, I must get this on my phone, I'm like, please put the password in. I've literally blocked out my phone from doing work on it.
And did you kind of implement that because you were kind of getting addicted?
No, not addicted.
Scrolling through
wasting
Instagram
time,
or
like watching the football while then on my iPad and like, what's happening here? Oh, cool. And like, this isn't relevant. What do I need to read an email for that I'm not replying to, and I'll be reading it again tomorrow when I reply to it? So
yeah. Back to your kind of likes comment. Do you see kind of social media in a few years' time getting rid of that like count? I mean, I know Instagram now have kind of hidden it from the public, but do you think it's going to go forever?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't.
No.
I'm not in the industry enough to be like reading the trends. I don't know. I don't have an opinion. I don't care. If it goes, it goes. What are you going to do about it? Stays, it stays.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's more virtue signaling than anything else. Like, Instagram know the status game. They know that people want to be attractive by having people like their stuff. Like, so all of us, all three of us here, anyone listening, if someone comes along patching the back and goes, oh, you're really good looking,
or you're doing a good job.
Yeah, any of that. And that's what it's kind of perceived as on Instagram, right? And that's never going to go away. And Instagram are just doing it because, well, fundamentally politics is going to play a role in regulation within social media. Anyway, I'm going way off on track here, and I think Neil's got a hard stop.
Where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, Scott, go on. Where can we find out more about you?
So if you go into podcastgift.co.uk, this is a good one. I heard this on somebody else's podcast. It was like podcastgift.com. Like, can I get the .co.uk domain? So yeah, if you go on podcastgift.co.uk, you'll be able to download a free recipe book with some of my most popular high protein recipes. There you go.
Glorious. What we'll do is we'll put that in the show notes in Spotify or wherever the hell this podcast goes, and we'll make sure that people get that link. I really appreciate you coming on, taking the 54 minutes that this has taken for a chat. Really appreciate you coming on. I think we've covered quite a lot more businessy stuff, and maybe down the line, if Scott's got enough time, we can do another one and talk more about dad life and his progression on that. But we'll see. Thanks very much, Neil. Thanks for co-hosting, and we all probably should get back to work, because technically, me and Neil are skiving for an hour lunch break.
Well, thanks for having me, and it shows the credit that you have built up, that you asked me to come on your podcast, and without even knowing what it's about or what the subject is, I said yes. I'm going to put a date in the diary.
Lads. Right, cheers Scott.
Nice.
Cheers Neil.
Cheers
Peace.
Scott. Cheers Gordon. Bye.